Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I'm going to get this Laelia anceps out of its pot. It looks like it's wired in quite substantially. The reason for getting this out of its pot is it's been in here a long time and it's not just large bark. There's quite a large element of smaller bark in here and I think it's compacting and staying wet too long. Now that's my worry, but it's well wired in as well, and it's been in here a long time. It'll be grown in, if you know what I mean, but it's not growing nicely. We do have some new growths at the moment, so now is a good time to deal with it because there'll be new roots coming soon, but it's not happy as it is. So I can always say, if the plant's not doing very well and you leave it as it is, it's going to carry on not doing very well and it may fail, you know, so get on and deal with things. Leaving it the same is not really a good option, and I'm not sure what this needs. A lot of people have said because of my cooler temperatures that I ought to think about not having cattleyas in clay pots anymore. And the idea with the clay pot is the ventilation, obviously, which it does need around the roots. But you have to bear in mind with this one, it's an exception to the rule, because Laelia anceps is a cool grower. It's not a warm grower like most cattleyas, or cattleya types even. It is a cooler grower, and as such, possibly appreciates the coolness around the roots from the clay pot. This piece of wire is just deciding to be stubborn. It is coming out, but it's making a big deal of it. Right to the end. Right, so I think that's the last of the wire. Yes, so it's just two pieces. Now the back end of this plant has got what looks like nothing, but the back end is almost the front end, because this went that way, it split here, this then became a dead end, this then split, yeah, which has got this bit, which does have, has a failed eye on it, and then the split that went that way split in both directions, but one rotted. So there's my new growth, only that far away from the oldest growth. And then I'm not sure whether I've got two plants in here, but the other one round here also has a new growth, and it looks like there might be a new growth there. There's a swelling, that doesn't mean to say it's going to grow. So the main thing is to get this out of the pot. I'm going to go round with my, this is my bonsai root rake, but the handle on it is very, very sturdy and has edges to it. They're not sharp, but it has edges. Just going to make sure that everything's loose. We're going to bleed now. Industrial injury again. That was this sharp bit on top of there. I caught my hand on it while I was pushing really hard. Now the roots that are sticking out of the pot are not going to be saved, so they just as well be broken straight away so that they'll pull back in. Right, so we've got another area here we can have a go at. We've got to mind those new growths. When you're using brutality, basically, you really have got to watch where your new growths are, because the slightest little slip and you've knocked your new growth off. And if that's your potential for your new roots and you've just knocked it off, you've then got a plant that's got to sit around without any new roots for some time. Right, now let's see how much media we can shake out. I doubt if the pot will shake out, if the plant will shake out, I'm sure. Here's an idea. and ease the plant out through the holes in the clay pot. Just try and force it upwards. It's on its way. Sorry about the blood everywhere, but there's an awful lot of giant bark in the bottom there. That will go back in. But you can see straight away that's a failed root system. There's not a live root there. These are all papery. They're all gone. So this plant's living on virtually no roots. Difficult to say why, and it is definitely two plants. Now that I've got it out, we can see we are working with two plants. So let's get that separated now, so that we can see what we're doing. Right. These are the latest roots that have grown. They are papery, but there's a live root tip there, so something is growing. Where's my skizzers? Something's on the move here, but not much. And certainly around the back here there's virtually nothing that's viable. Obviously at the very back end of the Cattleya, you know, old leafless bulbs right at the back are highly likely to ever branch or grow. Right, so the latest roots are from here onwards. You've got a whole section here with a leaf on that stopped growing, yeah, and didn't produce any roots. It looks like an eye failed there. So this lead is probably no more and is not going to shoot out. You can never guarantee these things, you can only predict. And then over here, that's the point at which it split. This has also lost its leaf. These should not have lost their leaves yet. You know, 1 and 2 bulbs behind a new growth should not have dropped their leaves. So this is not a happy plant. It's difficult to work out why at the moment. I'm just making sure the real bad papery ones are gone. They are in the main from the right up the back end of the plant. Right, that will probably do. Not very good. Should have a much better root system than this. The only activity here is amongst this, and I'm reluctant to touch it because it's difficult to work out where it all goes and comes from. So that's one piece. That does have a nice strong new growth, but that whole piece has got one leaf. You know, it's not doing well, this plant at all. So I'm wondering whether the back end of the plant ought to come off now. Shriveled pseudo bulbs, and it will be much easier to plant. I think we will. Just take that back end off. And we have broken the new growth on the other piece. It was right up against the side of the pot. I suspect the slightest movement has done that. But quickly, this is a project plant, but just to make the point, yeah? On this plant, when we repotted it, yeah, I broke a new growth off down there. And it's pushed another one out right next to it, and the roots are growing. In addition to that, it's pushing another one out here along with its new growth that's pushing up here. So this now has 3 growths. That's the potential for 3 spikes straight away. So that one's recovering quite nicely. That's no longer in a clay pot. But as this isn't a very happy plant, that damage to that new growth, it's not actually completely separated. It might make it. And underneath that sheath could well be, yes, there is another eye under there, so it may well push that one. And we've got 3 leaves on here and quite a lot of blood. I wonder if that's the type of feed. Who knows? But what we don't have is many active roots. See now here, this is the lead with the new growth. This is the lead without the new growth. But this lead has active roots growing. So I suspect one of these bulges down the bottom is actually going to start to grow. Wouldn't that be good? So I always used to worry about making sure every sheath was removed because of the scale. There's no scale on this plant whatsoever. They're gone. They have ceased to be. I don't think this plant ever really suffered with scale, but there's certainly none there. I always think on Cattleyas, removing the sheaths, you get the nice shiny bulbs underneath showing through and makes the plant look more attractive if nothing else. But it takes away those hidey holes. Now are we going to do the same with this and remove the back 2? They're not as badly shriveled on this piece. I think we'll leave them on this one. We will get rid of the manky roots that are associated with that back end. But we will watch out because in amongst those is a growing tip. And that's come from right up in there and pushed its way back here. Always look for the source. I haven't attempted to get all of the old media out because most of the media that's attached is attached to old roots that I'm about to cut off. So we don't need to faff around trying to get the old media off. It'll come off with the roots as they get separated. And again, we'll leave that because there's signs of growth. There's a root tip there, so there are signs of growth there. But it does seem odd why this is not growing, why it's not growing well. But, well, all I can do is pot it up in some new media, and I think what I might do, unheard of really for Cattleya types, is I might put some moss around the top of the plant to try and encourage some root growth from the base of these pseudo bulbs. Because by having the open media, you've got the wet-dry cycle down in the pot, but around the base of the plant it's damp, and that's far more likely to produce some root growth than having the wet-dry cycle. It's a difference. Wet-dry cycle for the plant, when it's a growing plant, settled in, mature, that's how they grow. But when you're trying to recover a plant or encourage some root growth, that might not be the best thing for it. Right, so those are our pieces. I might even reuse the pot, quite honestly, although it's a very deep pot. The only beauty of a deep pot is you can plant the plant low and the sides will help support it. Undecided, I'll shut down and come back when I'm ready. Okay, I've decided what I'm going to do. This little piece here fits quite nicely in there and sits against the pot, but it's going in deep so that it doesn't wobble about. And I've decided that in the main it's going in medium bark. So I'm going to hold that where it is and just fill up. I do need to do a bit of poking around because there's some quite large gaps in under where those older roots are. So we'll try and squeeze some in between those roots. At least they've got, if they do branch out, there's something to hang on to. And the area that does show signs of roots growing is round this front area. The new growth has got plenty of room, and on this piece it is highly unlikely to produce a new growth anywhere else, because the new growth that side has already died and this one has a dead eye. So at the moment this piece has one new growth and that's it, that's all it's got. And then I thought I'd, around this front area here, I thought I'd mix some grow stones in. These sort of hold some water, and that's instead of moss, basically. Moss is probably just going to be a bit too wet, especially if we're going into winter soon. You know, we'll have the lower temperatures, short days. Although these, if we're going to do the lights, these are ideal candidates for going in front of the lights, or under the lights, whatever you want to call it. So that's that one. I'll put the tag in there, but oh, hang on, I've just seen a big gap around the back. Unless we can get some in there. It'll also help hold the plants still. That's a bit better. There was a big hole around the back where nothing had dropped down. I mean, the back of the plant doesn't need to be buried. It's not going to grow, is it? And then this one, you can have the label. It's only one. I'll do another one. Now this one, this new growth hasn't broken, I don't think, but it feels damaged. It might carry on and grow. There is a bulge here, which is another growth, so that is highly likely to shoot out if the plant starts getting some roots. Then there's another lead here with a bulge, which could well be a new growth starting. So this one has the potential for several new growths, but they're not there yet. So this one, the older part of the plant, has got to be real buried right at the back like that, so that any new growths that come out have got the whole of the rest of the pot to live in. So I'm going careful because there are some new roots in some areas of this root ball. And now we need some more bark. Right. Oops. Push it around, why don't you? Right, it's reasonably steady as well, that's good. You see a tiny little hole down there where I'd like something to be. Right, so there we are, base of the bulbs in contact, yeah, back of the plant not buried, just sort of sat on the top really, the back of the plant. And now what I want to do is I want to get a lump, the right size lump, and jam it down behind that back bulb so that it can't move. There's no roots there, I'm not squashing any roots, there's no roots down the back. That holds it steady, or better. Right, so there we go, Laelia anceps ×2 minus the clay pot. Decided against it after all. As I say, despite this being a cool grower, a little bit of extra warmth around the root area might not be a bad thing. And then we'll have to wait and see if this has actually survived. It feels a bit wobbly to me, but it also doesn't want to pull out. It's as though it's just, you know, fragile. So we shall see whether that grows or not. And so I'm just finding some stones and some smaller pieces of bark, because that piece of the plant is floating and it shouldn't be. That's where new roots are going to start. We need them to get straight into something. That's better. Right, so that's that done. Just in time, the battery's about to run out. Hopefully enough time to download the data. I do have 2 smaller batteries that I could use. RO units on the go. I've got to keep my eye on that today. And I might be doing something in the garden. I have yet to decide, but if anything's going to get done in the garden, it needs to be done before lunchtime, because we're off up towards the sort of 27, 28 degrees outside again. I'm not working outside in that. I've only got to wait a week and it'll be gone, you know, nothing's that urgent. Anyway, there we go. These will now get an absolute soaking, and then about an hour later they will get another absolute soaking, so that we start some hydration process going. And we'll see what happens. I don't really want to lose Laelia anceps. It's, you know, one of my favourite cattleya blooms, always has been. But you can only do what you can do, and if it doesn't work, you know, then so be it. But we'll see if these pull on a bit now. I don't know what was wrong with them. This is the problem. I don't know what I'm trying to fix. So all I'm really doing is just trying something different, you know. Warm the roots up a bit by getting rid of the clay pot, separate them out, you know, and see what happens. So we've got a Laelia anceps here with a good strong new growth and 1 leaf. 3 back bulbs effectively, 1 with a leaf. That's not a good plant. If I'd paid for a division and got that, I wouldn't be happy. I'd be a bit happier with this, but not that happy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bulbs, of which 3 have got leaves, and they're not good leaves. You know, one of them's quite manky. But we will see if they now grow. Right, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. Let's go and clean my hand up now. It's got a hole in it. See how quickly they dry though. They soon seal up, get a bit of dirt in there, soon sets. See you next time. Bye for now.